Welcome to the realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Enjoy listening. Darius Witherspoon worked at Area 99, a highly classified research facility hidden from the world. The site was an enigmatic mix of orderly villas and a colossal research building, shrouded in secrecy. Each day followed a precise rhythm for Darius. He left his home early in the morning, reported to the facility, worked tirelessly on his assignments, and returned home at night. One evening, his routine was interrupted when his supervisor called a mandatory meeting. The supervisor addressed the team with an unusual urgency. Tomorrow is a critical day for Area 99. I expect every one of you to be present, no exceptions, he announced. The employees exchanged uneasy glances but said nothing, dispersing back to their homes with unspoken questions. Darius couldn't shake his curiosity. What was so significant about tomorrow? What event could possibly disrupt the meticulously controlled environment of Area 99? That night, as he sat in his cozy home working on some lingering projects, the first flakes of snow began to fall. Within an hour, the light snowfall escalated into a full-blown blizzard, unlike anything he had ever seen. The world outside his window was quickly buried in a thick, white blanket. Lighting a fire in the hearth, Darius settled into an evening of quiet reflection. The warmth of the flames and the serenity of the snowstorm lulled him into a rare moment of peace. Yet, his mind kept drifting back to the supervisor's cryptic warning. As the storm intensified, he finally ventured outside, curious about the state of his surroundings. He found some of the other employees making the best of the storm, throwing snowballs and laughing like children. For a brief while, Darius joined in, enjoying the camaraderie before returning home to sleep. The following morning, Darius awoke instinctively at his usual hour. Years of routine had conditioned him to rise without an alarm. However, his optimism faded the moment he looked outside. The storm hadn't relented. In fact, the snow had deepened, leaving the roads and paths completely impassable. A notification on his phone confirmed his suspicions. The supervisor had sent out a message canceling work for the day due to the extreme weather. Initially relieved, Darius spent the morning lounging at home, but by mid-afternoon, restlessness crept in. Pulling on his heavy winter coat, he stepped outside for some fresh air. As he closed his front door, he froze. A woman stood before him, trembling in the cold. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered in an ethereal shade of violet, and her large, luminous eyes held a pleading expression. "I'm freezing," she said, her voice soft but urgent. "Please let me in." Darius hesitated for a moment, taking in her alien appearance. Then, with a resigned sigh, he nudged the door open with his foot. "Come in," he said curtly. The woman stepped inside, shivering uncontrollably. Darius frowned. "You're wandering around in this storm wearing nothing but that," he said, gesturing to her scant clothing. She looked up at him, a hint of defiance in her gaze. "I didn't plan for this storm. My mission was to monitor Area 99. My name is Mila, and I'm here on behalf of my colony. But this weather has ruined everything." Darius stared at her, incredulous. "You're openly telling me you're a spy? Do you even know who I am?" Mila smirked faintly. "Darius Witherspoon. I know everyone here. I've studied all 300 of you before arriving. My task is simple, to observe and report back. If there's any threat to us, I'm supposed to expose it." Her bluntness caught Darius off guard. He debated notifying his supervisor immediately, but paused, considering an alternative. Perhaps Mila's presence could be advantageous for him. "Fine," he said at last, turning toward the fireplace. "But if you're going to stay, we'll need to warm you up. Sit by the fire." As Mila settled in front of the flames, Darius handed her a thick blanket. Despite the warmth, she continued to shiver. Her violet skin glowed faintly in the firelight, captivating Darius. There was a strange allure about her, an unearthly beauty mixed with a vulnerability that made him hesitate. "So," he said, breaking the silence, "how does an alien spy end up stuck in a snowstorm?" Mila laughed softly, though it lacked humor. "Not everything goes according to plan, even for us. My mission requires isolation. I need to blend in and observe unnoticed, but this storm, and now you have disrupted everything. Sounds like you're not as invincible as you thought, Darius teased. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Don't mistake this for weakness. I'm here for a purpose, and I won't abandon it yet. As the hours passed and their conversation deepened, Darius sensed cracks in Mila's steely demeanor. She admitted to being fascinated by humans, their complexity, their contradictions. It was a rare glimpse into the person beneath the mission, and Darius found himself drawn to her. The night wore on, the storm raging outside as the fire dwindled to embers. Mila's guarded nature began to soften, and for the first time, she let herself relax. Darius, too, found himself opening up in ways he hadn't anticipated. By morning, the storm showed no signs of letting up. Darius awoke to another message from his supervisor, this time bearing devastating news. Your failure to report to duty on this critical day has resulted in the termination of your contract. Effective immediately, you are no longer employed at Area 99. Darius stared at the message, his heart pounding as though a weight had settled on his chest. The words blurred on the screen, their finality sinking in. Fired. Just like that, years of dedication to Area 99 evaporated in an instant. Anger and disbelief churned within him. But above all, there was a gnawing sense of loss. What now? His entire life had revolved around that place, his work, his routine, his purpose. He dropped the phone onto the table and rubbed his temples. Mila stirred on the couch, stretching as she woke. When she saw the expression on his face, her serene demeanor was replaced by concern. Darius, what's wrong? She asked, sitting up and pulling the blanket around her. He hesitated for a moment before speaking, his voice heavy. I've been fired. Because I wasn't there today. Mila's purple eyes widened, and a flash of guilt crossed her face. She knew her presence here had played a role in his decision not to prioritize work, and now it had cost him dearly. I'm so sorry, she whispered. If I hadn't been here... Darius cut her off with a wave of his hand. No, don't do that. This isn't your fault. I made my choice. I stayed because I wanted to. You needed me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was needed by someone, not just a machine or a system. The room fell silent except for the faint crackle of the fire. Mila looked at him, her gaze soft but searching. What will you do now? She asked. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know, but I can't stay here. Once they know I'm gone, they'll come looking. Not just for me, but for you too. Area 99 doesn't take security risks lightly, and harboring someone like you, he trailed off, letting the implications hang in the air. Mila nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation. Then we leave, she said firmly. Together, her certainty surprised Darius, but it also comforted him. You'd really leave with me? Abandon your mission, your people? Mila's gaze didn't waver. I already have. The moment I chose not to report everything about you, I knew my allegiance had shifted. I don't know what this means for me, or us, but I can't go back to them. Not now. Darius felt a mix of relief and trepidation. Then we'll need to move fast, he said, standing. Pack only what's necessary. If we're lucky, the storm will cover our tracks. The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Darius gathered essentials, clothes, food, and a few personal items, while Mila helped as best she could. She moved with a quiet determination, her otherworldly presence a strange comfort amidst the chaos. The snow outside had begun to let up, but it was still thick enough to mask their departure. As Darius loaded the last bag into his truck, he paused to look back at the home he'd built in Area 99. It had been his sanctuary, his retreat after long days of work. Now it was a symbol of a life he was leaving behind. He felt a pang of sadness but pushed it aside. There was no time for regret. The wind howled softly, carrying with it a final reminder of the storm that had brought him to this moment. He tightened his grip on the truck door, glancing toward the horizon. The snow-covered landscape seemed endless, a blank canvas for whatever came next. Darius exhaled slowly, watching his breath rise in the icy air like a fleeting specter of the life he once knew. Mila, seated inside, watched him through the frosted windshield. Her violet eyes held a mixture of curiosity and quiet reassurance. She had grown to understand him quickly, sensing his reluctance and the weight of his choices. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice steady but soft, as if she feared breaking the fragile silence of the moment. Darius nodded, though his chest felt tight. "Yeah, let's go," he said, his voice firmer than he felt. He climbed into the truck, shutting the door with a thud that seemed to echo in the cold stillness. Mila offered him a faint smile as he started the engine, the rumble breaking the quiet of the snowy expanse. The tires crunched against the frozen ground as the truck slowly pulled away. Through the rearview mirror, Darius watched the house grow smaller and smaller, shrinking into the distance until it became just a dark speck against the endless white. His gaze lingered until it was gone entirely, swallowed by the storm. For a moment, he felt the sharp sting of loss. This house had been more than just walls and a roof. It had been a part of his identity. Yet as the truck picked up speed, the horizon stretched out before him, vast and untamed, filled with the promise of the unknown. A flicker of hope stirred in his chest, faint but undeniable. Mila shifted slightly in her seat, pulling the thick blanket around her shoulders more tightly. "You know," she began, her voice cutting through the hum of the engine, "I've spent so much time observing your kind, studying your behaviors and choices. I never thought I'd actually be part of one." Darius glanced at her, the corner of his mouth twitching into a small smile. "Well, life's full of surprises," he said, "and I never thought I'd leave Area 99 with a guest like you." Mila tilted her head, a playful glint in her eyes. "Guest? I thought I was your partner in crime now." He chuckled softly. "Yeah, I guess you are." The snowstorm began to lighten, and faint rays of sunlight pierced through the dense clouds above. Darius couldn't help but feel a small sense of relief, as if the world itself was acknowledging their fresh start. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel and focused on the road ahead. For the first time in years, the path forward was uncertain. But beside him sat Mila, a mystery and a companion, someone who made the uncertainty feel less daunting. Together, they ventured into the unknown, leaving behind the confines of secrecy and control, and chasing a freedom they had yet to define.